All right, I want to tell you something. I woke up this morning as the rest of you did, or you wouldn't be here, would you? And the first thing I read from the Israel National News is that the Obama administration released top secret information about the Israeli nuclear program to the world. It's not enough just to tell you that. I have got to describe to you exactly what took place. Barack Obama just put all those people at risk. These leaks, although this isn't a leak, this is an official Department of Defense release, but it's a leak, means that Obama has decided that Israel has to go, that Israel as presently formed, as presently exists, is illegitimate. That's why his chief of staff spoke to a leftist, Israel-hating group filled with Jews and went on about how Israel has been occupying land for 50 years. They went on about not 1967 borders. Obama said pre-1967 borders, which means Israel cannot survive. Under this two-state solution where you have Hamas, where you have Hezbollah, where you have these terrorist organizations funded by the Iranians and ISIS sitting there waiting for its opportunity to jump, you can't have a two-state situation under these circumstances, if ever in my view, but certainly not in these circumstances. Look what the Gaza Strip turned into, a missile launching site. So Obama is participating in arming up the enemy and participating in destroying the ally. Now, I want you to hear this story. This is the story that broke last night in Israel and that we read, we Americans, this morning. Because this just tells you how diabolical Barack Obama and his administration are. U.S. declassifies document revealing Israel's nuclear program. Obama revenge for Netanyahu's Congress talk, ? 1987 report on Israel's top-secret nuclear program released an unprecedented move. So Reagan didn't release it, Bush didn't release it, Clinton didn't release it, Bush didn't release it, Obama does. In a development that has largely been missed by mainstream media, the Pentagon early last month quietly declassified a Department of Defense top-secret document detailing Israel's nuclear program, a highly covert topic that Israel has never formally announced to avoid a regional nuclear arms race and which the United States until now has respected by remaining silent. But by publishing the declassified document from 1987, the United States reportedly breached the silent agreement to keep quiet on Israel's nuclear powers for the first time ever, detailing the nuclear program in great depth. The timing of the revelation is highly suspect, given that it came as tensions spiraled out of control between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Barack Obama ahead of Netanyahu's March 3 address in Congress, in which he warned against the dangers of Iran's nuclear program and how the deal being formed on that program leaves the Islamic regime with nuclear breakout capabilities. Another highly suspicious aspect of the document is that while the Pentagon saw fit to declassify sections on Israel's sensitive nuclear program, it kept sections on Italy, France, and West Germany, and other NATO countries classified, with those sections blocked out in the document. I've got something on the tip of my tongue that I believe to be absolutely accurate, and I'm really weighing whether to say it or not. I'm going to say it. Barack Obama, as a result of this and the other things he's doing, including arming up the Islamo-Nazis in Tehran, is the greatest threat the Jews face, not in this country, but in Israel, since the 1930s. Do you agree with me, Mr. Producer? He's the greatest threat they face since the 1930s. And I say that because he is doing more now to degrade Israel's military and defense posture, its intelligence information. He's doing more now to arm Israel's enemy than anybody. The Germans are resisting what he's doing. The French are resisting what he's doing. The Israelis are resisting what he's doing. The Arab countries are resisting what he's doing. He is the greatest threat that nation faces. And by the way, he's a great threat to our nation, too, as far as I'm concerned. But that for another day and every day. Let me continue. Oh, this will be the headline, what I just said. I don't care. I don't say it for it to be a headline. I say it to communicate with you, my beloved audience, the truth. Certainly as I see it. But I think it's true. Because they nuked up Iran, in my view, will attack Israel. And in fact, if they can get them on their ICBMs, they're going to attack our West Coast. And the reason the French and the Germans are concerned, yes, because of Israel, but also for themselves, because they happen to be a little closer to that neighborhood than we do. Incredible to me. Another highly suspicious aspect of the document is that while the Pentagon saw fit, as I said, to declassify and release Israel's information and name, it covered up all the other countries that were in there. The 386-page report entitled Critical Technological Assessment in Israel and NATO Nations gives a detailed description of how Israel advanced its military technology and developed its nuclear infrastructure and research in the 1970s and 80s. Israel is, quote, developing the kind of codes which will enable them to make hydrogen bombs. This is public, so don't yell at me. It's all over the place. And our enemies have it. It goes on. That is, codes which detail fission and fusion processes on a microscopic and macroscopic level, reveals the report, stating that in the 1980s, Israelis were reaching the ability to create bombs considered 1,000 times more powerful than atom bombs. The revelation marks a first in which the U.S. published in a document a description of how Israel attained hydrogen bombs. The report also notes research labs in Israel are equivalent to our Los Alamos, Lawrence Livermore, and Oak Ridge national labs, the key labs in developing America's nuclear arsenal. Israel's nuclear infrastructure is an almost exact parallel of the capability currently existing in our national laboratories, the assessment says. As far as nuclear technology is concerned, the Israelis are roughly where the U.S. was in the fission weapons field in about 1955 to 1960, the report reveals, noting a time frame just after America tested its first hydrogen bomb. The Institute for Defense Analysis, a federally funded agency operating under the Pentagon, penned the report back in 1987. I'm reading a public news story. That's all over the place now. Not in the mainstream media, not on our networks, but everywhere else for the enemy to see, our enemy to see. Aside from nuclear capabilities, the report revealed Israel at the time had, quote, a totally integrated effort in systems development throughout the nation, with electronic combat all an integrated system, not separated systems for the Army, Navy, and Air Force. It even acknowledged that in some cases Israeli military technology, quote, is more advanced than in the United States, unquote. Declassifying the report comes at a sensitive timing, as noted above, and given that the process to have it published was started 3 years ago, the timing is seen as having been the choice of the American government. Obviously, there are no coincidences of this sort. And trust me, the order had to come straight from the White House. The Defense Department would not have done this on its own. It was ordered to do it. U.S. journalist Grant Smith petitioned to have the report published based on the Freedom of Information Act. Initially, the Pentagon took its time answering, leading Smith to sue and a district court judge and to order the Pentagon to respond to the request. Smith, who heads the Institute for Research, Middle East Policy, reportedly said he thinks this is the first time the U.S. government has officially confirmed that Israel is a nuclear power and the status that Israel has long been widely known to have, despite being undeclared. So here the administration has the worst record since the creation of the Freedom of Information Act, I think in 1974-76. Its Environmental Protection Agency destroys information, conceals information. The Justice Department, they all do the same thing. But here, they couldn't wait to release it. And I'll tell you something else. There are exemptions under the Freedom of Information Act related to national security and international relations and so forth. And what the Obama administration did is they just coughed it up. They didn't cough up the Italians or the French or the Germans. They coughed up the Jews, the Israelis. Now, I've been saying that Barack Obama is an anti-Semite. I believe there needs to be a chorus to point this out. There is nothing else that explains what he's doing. Well, there's one other thing that I've come to believe, but I won't voice it right now. I've walked right up to the line, and those of you who listen carefully to this program know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's no question that he has a hate on. And I've brought experts on this program, and we've talked about it before. His association, Stanley Kurtz, points out, with the most radical elements of the PLO in this country, in academia. He sought them out. They sought him out. They became fast friends. Then when he decided to run for the U.S. Senate, he distanced himself, but now he doesn't have to run for anything. And now he's in a position to carry out what he's always wanted to carry out. Just as Barack Obama is more dangerous to this country than any enemy overseas, the Israelis, the Jews, face the greatest threat, in my view, that they have faced since the 1930s. Not by direct action, obviously. not by direct genocidal action, but it is the greatest threat. I'm not comparing it to the 1930s. I'm saying it's the greatest threat since the 1930s, and it is. And he is. And this administration is. And there's no question about it.